Sweet Tooth. A short story from the anthology series Nightmares, Dreams, and the Monsters in Between. Written by Sam Qualiana. It was Halloween night in 2005 when the horror began, or at least that's what I had heard from a friend of Michael Craven. These small towns tend to exaggerate stories, however. They become more fantasy than reality. Maybe it's because the reality of the situation is far more disturbing than the accounts we like to tell. Either way, it was a night that would change Michael's life forever. If I remember correctly, it started something like this. Michael Craven and his friends Casey and Leo walked down the damp, lopsided sidewalk of their small city. Their night of begging for treats was dwindling to an end. The kids wore Halloween costumes. Michael sported a ragged hockey mask strapped over his long, greasy brown hair. It was a brisk night, and his jumpsuit was thin. He should have worn more layers underneath, as his mother suggested, but his costume accomplished the look he was hoping to recreate. So Michael fought through the aching cold, piercing through his body. Casey wore the same Batgirl costume this year as she did the Halloween before. Her friends gave her a hard time about it, but she said it was her favorite costume. Their complaints hardly seemed to faze her.
Why would you spend money on a costume you're only going to wear once anyway?
She responded, emulating something Michael was sure he remembered her grandmother saying the year before. Casey's overflowing sack of candy dangled over her shoulder. It was apparent the bag was tiring her arms, but the boys had plenty to carry of their own. Michael figured he was being enough of a gentleman by escorting her back to her parents' house on Willow Street. Leo was the largest of their friends and quite possibly the tallest kid in the 6th grade. He adjusted his cheaply made Frankenstein mask, trying to match the eye holes to his own. The misshapen latex mask kept sliding around, blocking his vision.
This mask sucks!
He cried out, fidgeting with it.
Maybe if you weren't so oddly proportioned, things would fit you better. You ought to work on that.
Shut up, Mike.
Seriously, half the houses we stopped at told us we were too old to trick or treat. You're taking away from my childhood because you're a lanky goon. Think about the children, Leo. Think about the children.
Leave him alone, Michael. It's good to have a gentle giant as a friend,
Casey said with a smile. Even under his mask, Michael could tell Leo was blushing. He could see the awkwardness in his body language.
Get a room,
Michael said, pulling ahead from his friends and continuing towards Casey's house. Casey flashed a smile to Leo before skipping ahead to catch up with Michael. Leo sluggishly followed behind. Once the kids reached Casey's house, she stopped at the front door and said her goodbyes.
I'll see you guys tomorrow, maybe.
Sure. See ya then.
Leo replied, awkwardly waving. Michael stared at Leo while Casey giggled, entering her house.
You're embarrassing,
Michael said, walking away.
What did I do?
Leo replied, following behind. Michael stopped at a bush a few houses down, throwing his bag on the ground. He unzipped his overalls as he exclaimed,
Now that your girlfriend is gone, I can finally relieve myself.
She's not my girlfriend.
Leo mumbled.
Yet.
Michael quickly replied. Leo searched their surroundings, keeping watch as Michael peed. Irritated by his lack of vision, he finally removed the mask, letting it rest on top of his head. Michael moaned with relief as he finished peeing and came back to Leo.
I feel 10 pounds lighter,
he huffed.
You disgust me. You always have.
Said Leo without straying from his examination of the neighborhood.
Do you find it weird that nobody else is walking around on this street?
Michael took a glance at the surrounding suburb.
Maybe all of Casey's neighbors are old people. Who cares? It's getting late anyway. Everyone probably already hit these spots.
He shrugged.
I don't know. It's kind of creepy. I don't even hear anything.
Leo explained. Michael shook his head, embarrassed by his friend.
You're such a wimp.
The bush Michael peed on suddenly shook. A soft purring noise arose from within, and the sound captured the boys' attention. They stared in shock, moving closer to the shrubbery, hoping to identify what was causing the disturbance from inside. A high-pitched cackle boomed out from the bush, causing both of the boys to jump back in fear. Michael screamed at the top of his lungs and jumped into Leo's arms.
Get off me, you big baby!
Leo shouted, pushing Michael away.
What the hell was that? There's something in there, Leo. I think I pissed on a frickin' psycho beast demon. It's gonna kill us.
Michael cried, hiding behind his friend.
Dude, chill out. It's probably just a cat.
Michael grabbed Leo by the shoulders, staring into his eyes.
Cats don't laugh like Satan, Leo.
How do you even know what Satan laughs like?
The chatter was interrupted by the sound of a large door creaking open. The boys slowly turned their heads to face the house where they'd been lingering. Before them, The shape of a slender old man emerged from the shadows. He poked his head out, letting the light illuminate his pale, spotted, wrinkled face.
You kids, get back home.
The old man shouted.
Your parents are gonna be looking for you.
Michael ran as fast as he could until he stubbed his toe on the sidewalk, causing him to stumble to the ground, skidding his knee. Leo caught up behind him, lifting Michael off the concrete.
Shit sticks.
Michael moaned as he gripped his leg. At that moment, he realized he left his candy where he stopped to pee.
Balls, Leo. I left my sack back there.
Clearly. You sounded like a girl when you screamed.
No, you idiot. The sack with my candy in it.
Damn. Sorry, dude. I can give you some of mine if you want.
No way, we're going back to get it.
We? I don't think so, Mike. You're on your own. That old dude sounded like a psychopath. He probably eats kids. He even looked like a zombie. Yeah, he was definitely either a cannibal or the undead.
Don't be a chicken, dude. I have king-size Butterfingers in there. They don't give those away every year, man. You don't just leave them behind.
It's already late, Mike. My mom's gonna kill me if I don't get home soon. You should probably do the same.
They will write songs of your cowardice.
Okay, cool. Message me when you get home, bud. See you tomorrow.
Leo said, jogging towards his house. Michael stood in the darkness, upon the cold concrete sidewalk alone. A chill shivered down his spine and spread to his fingertips. He waited for a moment, debating whether he should just go home or find the courage to take back his sack of sugary loot.
There's nothing to be afraid of.
Michael whispered aloud, hoping to reassure himself. Michael walked at a slow and hesitant pace. He'd crept back to the spot where he left the sack, but when he got there, the bag was already gone.
What the crap?
He whispered under his breath, thinking somebody must have lifted the sack after he ran away. Suddenly, the creepy old man emerged from the shadows, causing Michael to shriek in terror.
Leave something behind?
The old man asked, reaching his slim, leathery hand out with a piece of candy displayed between his bony fingertips. Michael was shaking in his boots, terrified of what might happen next.
You can keep it. I'm good. Thanks.
Nonsense. The bag belongs to you, boy.
The old man said with a rasping whistle in his voice. He revealed the sack from behind him, handing it back to Michael.
Don't be afraid of me, boy. It's the creatures that hide in the shadows that you need to worry about. The things that go bump in the night.
The old man laughed until he interrupted himself with a dry cough. Michael grabbed the sack, yanking it from the old man's grasp.
No offense, but you're the one creeping around in the shadows, bud. Don't you have something better to do besides scaring kids? Get a hobby, dude.
Michael said, growing confident as he spoke. The old man wiped the drool from his lip and stared at Michael with disapproval.
When I was growing up, kids didn't speak to adults like that, son. If I did, my pappy would have given me an ass-whooping.
Go ahead, try to touch me, I dare you, old creep. What are you, some kind of perv or something?
Michael taunted. The old man leaned forward, grabbing Michael's bag. They tugged back and forth for a moment as the man shouted,
Blood and murder, bring it back. Ashes, fire, and diamondbacks. Crickets hiss and goblins kiss. Never quit until all the child's blood is dripped.
The old man let go of the bag unexpectedly. He slowly made his way towards his house, disregarding Michael, as if the struggle had never happened.
You're a freak. You don't scare me.
Michael yelled, although on the inside he was scared to the bone.
Sleep well, sweet tooth. Until we meet again.
The old man yelled back without looking. Michael stared at the old man until he entered his home.
Creep,
he stammered, heading back to his own house. When Michael came home, he entered through the front door. With his face in his bag of candy, he didn't notice the dark figure lurking in front of him. It lunged toward him, unleashing a menacing growl. He looked in horror at the being, its face only a skull. Michael shrieked a piercing cry which made the dark figure break character, bursting into laughter.
You were so scared,
laughed his older brother Freddy, removing his mask.
I was just caught off guard. You're such a dick.
Whatever, princess. You about pissed yourself.
Freddy teased, taking notice of Michael's large sack of treats.
Hey, let's see what you got in there.
You're not getting any of my candy.
Michael grumbled as he ran up the stairs as fast as he could. Once inside his room, Michael slammed the door shut, dangerously causing a rack of collectible swords and knives to shake on the wall, nearly toppling over. He tossed his hockey mask on the bed along with his bag of treats. The family dog, a Labrador retriever named OJ, had been sleeping on his bed while he was gone. The dog didn't pay any mind to Michael as he slumped beside him and poured out his goodies. Much to Michael's surprise, a large doll rolled out of the bag with the rest of the candy. It was a frightening-looking toy, poorly sewn together from what seemed like a potato sack and old clothing. The monstrous thing had one eye larger than the other, sharp plastic teeth sewn inside a black mouth, and at the top of its head a string tying it together, which made its face look like a large onion. Michael groaned in disgust at the doll. Chuckling softly, he threw it aside. Freddy barged into Michael's room, bit into a piece of Laffy Taffy, and picked up the doll.
Dude, come on.
Sorry, did I interrupt your dolly time?
Freddy taunted, inspecting the toy with disgust.
Ugly thing, isn't it?
It's not mine. It got stuffed in my bag somehow when I was trick-or-treating.
Sure, I bet.
Freddy responded as he threw the doll on the bed and filled his hands with candy.
Thanks, man,
he said, leaving the room. Michael brooded in his bed. There was nothing he could do. He was used to his brother's relentless bullying. Michael looked to OJ, who stared at him with a curious exchange, seemingly anticipating he'd soon chime in with his thoughts and feelings.
I do all the work and he gets my spoils. Doesn't seem fair, does it?
Michael asked the dog, who groaned in response.
My feelings exactly.
He replied as if he were actually having a conversation with the furball. Michael looked back to the doll, who was now sitting upright, staring at him.
How'd you get here, you creepy mofo?
After a brief stare down, Michael was sick of looking at the doll, so he threw it to the floor. Hours passed before a painful Charlie horse abruptly awakened Michael.
What the hell?
Freddy stood over him with the doll in his hand.
You think this is funny?
He shouted, throwing the toy at his kid brother.
What are you talking about? I didn't do anything.
Michael responded, confused, rubbing his throbbing thigh.
Whatever, dude. Stay out of my room and keep your creepy-ass doll away from me.
It was in your room?
Don't act innocent. It couldn't have walked into my room on its own.
I didn't do it, I swear.
Well, Pop and Mom aren't home yet. They're probably wasted at the carpenter's house right now. So that leaves just you and me, and I sure as hell didn't do it.
Neither did I.
Maybe your dumb dog brought it into my room then. It looks like he ate all your candy, too.
Freddy said, pointing to the empty sack with candy wrappers scattered all around it. Michael hopped off his bed and dug through the mess, hoping it wasn't true.
What the hell? Why did you do this?
Why would I eat all your candy and blame the dog? I'd tell you if I did. It's not like you'd do anything about it anyway, you pussy.
Screw you.
Michael shouted, shoving his brother. Freddy hit Michael in the gut and pushed him back on his bed.
Just stay out of my room.
He huffed on his way out the door. Michael laid in bed, fighting his hardest not to cry. OJ snuggled up to him, licking his face.
I didn't even do anything.
He whimpered to the dog. Michael woke again suddenly. The sound of Freddy screaming jolted him from his bed. Without thinking, he grabbed a baseball bat from near his dresser and rushed to his brother's room. When Michael turned the corner, he found Freddy on the ground with a pair of scissors stabbed into his leg. The doll was biting Freddy's face. It was alive. Freddy pulled with all his might, tearing half his upper lip off in the process. Michael saw his moment. The doll was far enough away from his brother. He had to swing, so he did. The doll soared across the room, breaking the door off of an entertainment center and shattering glass across the carpet. The boys stared for a moment, hoping the creature was dead, but it wasn't. The doll shook its head, it got back to its feet and let out a devilish laugh. Michael quickly helped Freddy to his feet. They escaped into the bathroom, slamming the door shut behind them.
We're safe in here.
What the hell was that?
Michael stared at him, confused, unable to even fathom a rational answer. Freddy's face was bleeding badly. Michael reached over him for a towel, accidentally bumping the scissors, still stabbed into his leg.
Ah, shit! Watch it!
I'm sorry. Here for your face.
Michael said, handing him the towel. Freddy pressed the towel against his lip, soaking up the blood. Michael stared at the scissors protruding from Freddy's leg.
What do we do about that?
Leave it. If we pull it out, I can bleed out.
Gross.
This is so fucked up.
Suddenly, a large blade stabbed from under the door, blindly piercing and slicing anywhere it could, hoping to find a target. The boys pulled their feet back and watched in terror. The blade pulled away quickly, and vicious barking reverberated from outside the door.
OJ.
The noise stopped. A frightening silence filled the air for what seemed like an eternity.
I think OJ stopped it. I think we're safe.
Then, without warning, the doorknob turned.
It can't reach the doorknob. It can't be that thing.
The boys darted towards the door, but it was too late. It swung open just as they got near it. and the doll jumped on Freddy, savagely biting his shoulder and his neck. It wrapped its legs around his collar and straddled his head, planting its teeth into the side of his face. Freddy screamed in agony. Michael ran for his life, escaping the bathroom and tumbling down the stairs. When he landed at the bottom, OJ limped over to him. He was okay, but the doll wounded his paw.
Oh, good boy.
Michael said with tears rolling down his cheeks. He embraced the dog. A crashing sound came from upstairs, followed by glass shattering. Then silence. Michael got to his feet, inching towards the bottom of the stairs. He stared up at the bathroom, terrified of what to do next.
Freddy?
He shouted. But no response.
Freddy.
He whispered, slowly creeping up the stairs. As he drew closer to the bathroom, he started hearing an indistinguishable noise. And closer, it sounded like chewing. He reached the top of the stairs where he could see inside the bathroom. Blood painted the floor, the walls, everything. The medicine cabinet was smashed. There was glass everywhere. Freddy's lifeless body stared him in the eyes, half of his face eaten off. The doll stood over Freddy, blood dripping from its mouth. It held a severed finger in its hands, gnawing at it like a chicken wing. Michael discreetly grabbed a blanket off a chair nearby. He snuck up behind the doll and caught it. Once bounded, Michael struck the doll over and over again until it stopped struggling. Then he ran full force down the stairs, through the kitchen, and out to the back patio. He grabbed matches and a bottle of lighter fluid from a cabinet before making his way outside. Michael threw the bag into the fire pit out back, quickly grabbing a poker stick and viciously beating it over and over again. He dumped lighter fluid all over the bag, lit a match, and set it aflame. The devil doll screeched in horror, flopping around the pit until it turned to ashes and was no more.
Sleep well, sweet tooth.
Michael said, repeating the old man's words. It was hard for the police to come up with a reasonable story behind what happened that night. Michael was a suspect for a while, but they could never explain the bite marks on Freddy's corpse. They even tried to blame OJ, but there would have been blood and DNA in his mouth. Nothing made sense, and nobody trusted a word, Michael said. Who would believe ramblings of a killer doll and a crazy old man putting a curse on some punk-ass kid? I wouldn't, and nobody did. Michael was sent away to a psychiatric hospital. Whatever happened that night traumatized him for the rest of his life. I hope he finds peace one day. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please like and subscribe for more content from the Metroshia channel.